Have you ever felt tension in your life between two things that actually seem like they're really good, but like they're hard to do at the same time? I want to talk about one of those that I experience in my own life. Tapestry weaves together the threads of our struggles, doubts, curiosities, faith, joys, and hopes to create meaningful conversations that matter. You know those late night conversations that go unexpectedly deep? That's what we hope to capture with the Tapestry Podcast. And we want everyone to join in the conversation, because when we are heard and valued, we can begin to believe we're loved. Welcome to the Tapestry Podcast. So this tension that I've been thinking about in my life is a tension between being present, kind of living in the here and now, and also what also seems like a really good thing, which is to be able to take a long view. So it's this really healthy thing of being here in the now, being present with like what and who is around me, and also maybe simultaneously even finding that it's really important to be able to take a long view on what's happening now in the here and now, and seeing it in the context of history and of like a hoped for future. This idea that things are going to get better, or maybe the future will be bright, and not just in like some sort of like pie in the sky by and by, like a don't worry, chin up, everybody. The sun will come out tomorrow. Like, I love Annie, but like this may be a little too sunny for a lot of us, or too simple. But I think that there's also something very, very, very powerful about hope, and about looking to the future with hope. And so I find this tension between living now and being present now, and thinking about like the context of the past and the hope of the future. And I think the now is so important, because if we get too caught in the past, if we get too caught up, maybe it's something like a traumatic thing that happened in your past, or maybe it's like a thing that you tend to just rehash and relive in your past. I know that is true for me. Like, I look back and think, oh man, I wish I had done this differently or better, or I wish I hadn't hurt that person in the way that I hurt that person. But if I dwell on it too much, I think it can lead toward depression. And I've talked to lots of friends for whom this is the case. Like, getting caught in the past maybe feels like just depressing and brings you down. And maybe conversely, or at least it's more related than it might seem, that the future, and worrying too much about the future, the things that are to come, and the worries and the pressures of that can lead to unhealthy amounts of anxiety, right? And so if we're too caught up in the like, oh, but what if this, and like, but they said this, and like if they don't do that, or if I can't do the thing, man, like it can just spiral into anxiety and like just feel all clenched up in here. And that's not good either. And so a lot of spiritual thinkers, or people who kind of want to live a healthy life, talk about living in the here and now, living not too much in the past and not too much in the future, and just being really present, because you miss stuff. You miss really important things if you aren't present enough. And there are lots of things that keep us from being present, not just thinking about the past or the future. Sometimes it's, and we've talked about this 100 times on this podcast, our devices and scrolling and all of that stuff can take us out. And it's really important to be here and now, to feel yourself planted firmly where you are, and to be connected to the people that are around you. But this seems to me to have at least some tension with the idea of taking a long view. And that has also been really helpful for me in my life. Like, the ability to put things in context and see into the past, even if it's only your own past, and also being able to imagine a preferred future or like where things are going can be really, really helpful too. And so, like, I think of in youth ministry, I work with middle school and high school students, work with adolescents, especially the young ones can be a challenge because like they're just coming into adolescence, right? And if you've ever been around like a 10, 11 or 12-year-old child, they can have a lot of energy, and it's boys and girls, but maybe especially boys can have this kind of like frenetic, like bouncing off the walls, like vibrating energy. Like I've had students who like will literally bounce in a seat, right? Like, and like I haven't given them any sugar or anything, like just kind of like there's this, right? And I mention this because when people are new to working with this population, a lot of times it feels very overwhelming and overstimulating for the adult leader who's working with this. And maybe you've experienced this too. Maybe you've been around people who just feel like, they can't sit still, or maybe you're a person who can't sit still. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's nothing bad about it. It can be a challenge when you're trying to maybe do certain tasks or work in a group in a certain way. And so it's good to remember that, number one, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. And number two, the long view is that this person isn't going to be this age forever. And in fact, this age is special, and it only lasts so long. And some of the most kind of like bouncing up and down kinds of kids that I had when they were in sixth grade, by the time they graduate from high school, they are like the most focused and calm. And that doesn't always happen, but often it does. And so taking a long view can help in our relationships, can help in thinking about current state of affairs in the world, right? Like there was this newsletter that I read from Nadia Bolz-Weber. You hear me talk about her a lot. And she was talking about a woman who she's like a park ranger, and she's older, like I think maybe octogenarian, like in her 80s. And I think, and she grew up, or she lived through, the civil rights movement and was part of that. And she's a Black woman who talked about this idea that, things might not be great right now, but they've actually progressed so much. And a lot of times life is 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And for many of us, it feels like we're in a 1 step back moment, whether that's for our LGBTQ friends and family, or people of color, or people who are immigrants in this country, whether they have documentation or not, because that doesn't seem to matter right now, whether you're actually documented. It can seem like a huge step back. And I'm not saying that it isn't. I think there are a lot of things that are like super hard right now for a lot of folks. I have a lot of friends who work in government and do really good work and aren't working right now in this moment because of the shutdown. But it's helpful to remember that 1 step back doesn't mean that there can't be more steps forward in the future. And so that's why the long view can be so important. So living in the now, but also having a long view this helps me in my own life too, just like my own personal development. Like sometimes it feels like there's this thing that I still haven't figured out, that it's this hard thing that I can't seem to get over or can't seem to conquer. But then I look back and I remember, but there are so many that I have that aren't like a problematic issue for me anymore. And it's really, really hopeful and helpful, I think, when we can take that kind of long view. And I think this is also connected to change, right? We often resist change. I resist change, especially if it's something like that was nice and comfortable for me and it moves into a time of discomfort. And I have found in my life, and I have found in the people that I most admire in terms of their spirituality and their their life of faith, that they embrace change. And that when I've been able to embrace change as both inevitable, like it's going to happen, you can't stop it, and as necessary, change as inevitable and necessary, then that can change my whole view on that whole thing, right? Like, change can be scary and hard, but if I remember that there's nothing I could do to stop it, but it has to happen. Like it is necessary that sixth grade boy who is bouncing will grow and mature, and that problem, that issue that I can't seem to like quite get around, will one day be a thing that I look back on and say, I'm so glad that it's not causing me trouble anymore. And I think this is part of the life of faith, the life of spirituality, of having a spiritual practice. And so I guess I've got a challenge and then maybe a couple questions. Like, does your spirituality, does your faith, does your practice change you? Does it shape you? Because if it doesn't, if your spirituality, if your practices, if your faith doesn't shape you and change you, then I have the feeling that it's only like a pacifier. Like my family would call it a nookie, like a little pacifier that a baby would have, or like a security blanket, like Linus from the Peanuts. Peanuts? Did I say peanuts? Weird. Linus from the Peanuts had, the security blanket, and when he didn't have it, and he would suck his thumb too, I think, right? Like, when he didn't have it, he didn't feel secure. And those things sometimes are necessary in our lives, but I think that for the most part, those should be like a step on the way to greater maturity. And so if our spirituality isn't shaping us and changing us, if our faith and faith practices aren't shaping us and changing us, if they're just kind of there to make us feel good in the moment, then I think maybe we're missing something, because at some point we have to leave those behind, become more mature and grow. So which one is easier for you? Is it easier for you to be in the here and now, or to take the long view? And I mean the long view in kind of that healthy way. Which one's easier for you? And have you been able to hold these two things in tension and kind of have this feeling of being present here and now, and being able to take the long view, seeing things in context of both history and a hoped for future? I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for coming along on this little mini episode of Tapestry. We'll be back soon with some more episodes of conversations with friends. Thanks for coming along, and see you next time. The Tapestry Podcast is produced by Stephen Bailey. Original music was scored by Taylor Martin. Various friends host this podcast along with me, Mike Orr. Special thanks to Lauren Richmond Jr. and Resonate Media. You can learn more about Tapestry and join the conversation on our Discord channel at tapestrytalk.org. Thanks for joining us.